So you'd have a whole population of people left struggling to survive, completely displaced, surrounded by an utterly contaminated, toxic environment as a result of mining activity. It would be a humanitarian catastrophe layered on top of an existing humanitarian catastrophe.
So I've got so many questions. I'll try to contain myself. I'm curious, what would happen if we found an alternative and we switched 100% to that alternative and we didn't have any more cobalt jobs for the Congo? What would they do then?
So number one, it would not do anything to repair the massive amount of human and environmental destruction that's taken place for the last 12 plus years. Now, going forward, you'd suddenly have a population of a few million people who have been surviving on those $2 or $3 a day for the last decade. I mean, it's literally the difference between eating or not, survival or not, struggling to survive because their livelihood would have been stripped away. Their environment's been destroyed. There have been hundreds of thousands of people displaced because of expanding mining operations. Villages have just been laid waste. So you'd have a whole population of people left struggling to survive, completely displaced, surrounded by an utterly contaminated, toxic environment as a result of mining activity. It would be a humanitarian catastrophe layered on top of an existing humanitarian catastrophe.
If they were to be paid more, I saw your video, first of all, it makes you a little sad, but you went into the Congo, you developed all these relationships, you got this really interesting behind the scenes video showing these laborers working in ridiculous conditions. So that definitely pulled at me a lot. And that's one of the reasons why I said, hey, we need to have this guy on the show so we can get this message out because, well, I'm in technology and I made my entire living writing code and all of these things. And that's who our audience is. And this is happening largely because of advancements in electronics. So maybe, helping you get the word out would cause some positivity, if nothing more than just to make people aware. Cause you're right. A lot of them they can, but they aren't flying down and checking their supply chains. And you sort of did that as a journalist. And I think that's incredible. So I have a ton of respect for you there. When I saw that video, I noticed the militia, and you even talked a little bit and told some stories about how you almost got in a really tight situation, but because you had this signature, you got out of it. If the government is in all of this disarray and corruption, let's say that tomorrow one of the big tech companies wakes up and they say, look, I saw Sid. Can I call you Sid? I don't want to okay.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I talked to Sid and I saw what happened. I invited him to my office. We talked, and then now we're going to triple their pay. The way it looked to me is that if there's a good possibility that the corruption in the government and the militias would just take their extra pay.
The solution has to include engagement with local government, local stakeholders. No question about it. You can't just do this externally. And the good news is the Congolese government wants solutions. The current administration of President Tshisekedi wants solutions. They signed an MOU with the U.S. government, the Biden administration, just last week or 2 weeks ago, looking to secure and improve battery supply chains. Now, that's language, it's aspirational. What does that actually mean? We'll find out. But the good news is the government of the Congo is looking for positive change. And the copper cobalt mining areas are largely under the control of Chinese state-run mining companies. And candidly, that's part of the problem, because they operate in a way that doesn't always maintain the kinds of human rights standards we'd expect to be implemented in the West. And as I said, the environment, and this is a key part of the story, the environment has just been completely destroyed. Millions of trees have been clear-cut to make way for giant mining concessions. These mining companies dump toxic effluents into the air, earth, and water in a way that they wouldn't do in their home countries. So the Congolese government sees what's happening. This very valuable resource that is needed for the global economy is being ransacked out of their country with little benefit to their people, and that has to change. So I think we'd have willing partners in the Congolese government. That's not to say you just snap your fingers and the problem is solved, because there's a lot of corruption still on the ground. There's a lot of violence, and all of that would have to be dealt with. But look, these companies at the top of the chain, quite apart from Western governments, I mean, we have solved massive problems before, much more complicated than achieving basic dignity for people in the Congo. I mean, just what it took to design a smartphone or an EV battery pack is far more of a challenge than ensuring that we don't have children caked in toxic filth in the Congo, digging out cobalt. That's a small problem relative to the other problems consumer-facing tech and EV companies have already solved. So I think it's just a matter of will to say, okay, we actually do want to solve this problem. And so then the question has to be asked, because I do believe they are all generally aware of what's happening in the Congo. So the question has to be asked, well, why haven't they done enough about it? And I think the unavoidable answer to that question is because it's those people over there and they...